All right. Metaverse Masterclass is now in session. How are you today, Shay?
I'm doing well, Robin. I'm excited about our guest today.
That's right. That's right. I'm super excited myself. We have the co-founder and CEO of SuperWorld here today, Hrish Lotlikar. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on, and I'm excited to share our stories. So thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Had to have you on.
Yes, we are so excited to have you here, Hrish. So we like for our guests to know and to get in contact with our audience a little bit more personally. So I have a icebreaker for you, if you don't mind answering. Nothing too personal, but just so they get to know you a little better. Is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. Please share with our audience, what is your favorite vacation destination and why?
I really love, so many places in the world. I live very globally, nomadically. So every year I live in different parts of the world. I'm currently in Miami Beach, but around the world, I love Ukraine a lot. I spent a lot of time in Ukraine, in Kyiv and Odessa in the summers. I love Stockholm. I love Bali in Thailand, or Bali. And then I love Copenhagen Island in Thailand. I love south of Spain. So many places in the world. I just came back from Rio, which I think is incredible. So for me, SuperWorld is, living around the world and seeing the world. I don't know if I can pick one. Again, very much with the vision of SuperWorld. So many beautiful places.
Oh, very nice.
Love it. I got a quick follow-up for that one. Since you've been to so many different places in the world, right? What's that one food that you think about when you're home? You're like, man, I miss that. I want that dish. I wish I could have it.
I have actually had this situation. So I grew up in Texas and lived, in the United States a lot of my life growing up, and I grew up eating a lot of Mexican food. And I remember when I moved to Eastern Europe about 12 years ago, I moved to Ukraine. I started a venture capital fund there, and I wanted to find Mexican food, because I was eating Mexican food. I think like Chipotle had just come out or something, and I was eating Chipotle like a few times a week or something. And they had no Mexican food. This was like 12 years ago in Ukraine, literally no Mexican food. So I ended up having, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, ended up cooking some burritos, and she's an amazing cook. So she did that, and I was, that was love at first sight for me when she made Mexican food for me. I had a real, love of that. So that's funny that you bring that up.
Wow, thanks for sharing. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. So, Hrish, for the unenlightened, for the people that may not know who you are, please tell the audience, and you hinted to it a little bit more about, where you're from, what is it that you do, and we can dive a little bit more into your work.
Yeah, sure. So again, my background, just very quickly, is, I was born in India, grew up in the United States, kind of covered a variety of industries in my experience career-wise. I started off in management consulting, investment banking. I worked on Wall Street. I was at UBS and HSBC. Of all things, I started off in real estate investment banking. We're doing virtual real estate and have created that category. So it's kind of interesting how life kind of, you can't connect the dots going forward, only backwards. So that's been very interesting. And then got into venture capital in New York, investing across tech and biotech. As I mentioned, had an idea, which was, wouldn't it be cool to start a venture capital fund in Europe? Went over to Eastern Europe, didn't know anyone. Took me about a year and a half, but started a venture capital fund in Ukraine. Also, I'm on the board of Tech Minsk, which is in Belarus. Got into the AR industry, early exposure to that, because the company that went through our accelerator got bought by Facebook. They do all the face filters for Instagram and Facebook, a company called Masquerade. And then got into early at a company called TopTal, which is a talent marketplace. I was the first biz dev there. So learned how to build a platform, scale, experimental, all that kind of stuff about, helping to build a rocket ship and all that's involved. So it was a great experience for me. And then about 5 years ago, started Rogue Initiative Studios, which is a film, television, gaming, and virtual reality studio in Hollywood. My co-founder produced Call of Duty, Modern Warfare series, and Ghosts. And my production partner is Michael Bay, the action director. And so at Rogue Initiative, what we do is we build franchises, feature film, television, gaming, virtual reality, all the way to amusement park rides and toys. And the reason I told you all that, guys, is that's how I got into AR and VR. Rogue Initiative is backed by all the top AR, VR venture capital funds in Silicon Valley and globally. And what happened is, about 5 years ago, Pokemon Go came out, became this huge hit. And that basically showed us that you can add digital content to real world locations and it can be very compelling. And the thing we thought was, why does it have to be Pokemon? What if it was music or TV or travel or anything? And so the idea of SuperWorld came about when we thought, you know what? How can you empower anyone to create anything anywhere, discover anything anywhere, and monetize anything anywhere? And how do you enable them to own those places as well? Become a key stakeholder in the world that they're building and own the platform. And that's how we added Web3 to that. And that was the vision of SuperWorld.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Wow.
Hrish, I know people that are watching and listening are like, okay, he just summarized at least 60 years of someone's life, but he looks like 25. How is it even possible? Right? That the guy looks like 25 years old and he's done so much. So congratulations on all your success, everything that you've done. Pretty amazing story.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. We're so happy to have you here. And I typically ask a lot of our guests, what is their definition of the metaverse and where do you see it going in the future? Like how far out, how advanced and immersed will we be in it, in the future?
Yeah.
But how did you get started within it? I'm sorry, not how you got started, but what's your definition of the metaverse and where is it going to go?
Yeah. So, again, the metaverse is a term that's been, kind of in the popular media now for a while, kind of first got out there in the 90s with like Snow Crash, which was a book by Neil Stephenson about, virtual world, in this case, on top of the real world. And, again, I think the definition of the metaverse is that it's an online, offline interface that's persistent, that really encapsulate all human activity and virtual worlds and really brings together, all of the things that we do in our life in the analog state or in terms of digitality as well.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that, as we are all, living our lives, even over the last, 10, 20 years, I think we've started to notice, and especially the last year and a half with COVID, that there's parts of our lives that are becoming more and more virtual and digital. I mean, this conversation on Zoom is a great example of that. And how most people are spending a lot of their lives on Zoom on back-to-back calls, as we all know. And other things are going virtual. Countries are, moving to digital passports, and you're, getting a digital, profile on a social network where now you spend a lot of time with that profile and you're communicating, on a messenger, and maybe you have 10 messengers on your phone because a new one comes out every year that you have to download and start using. And so, what happens is that like different parts of our lives are moving more digital. And, as that happens, we're all kind of, making decisions as to whether we jump on or we don't jump on. And I would say to that question of where the metaverse is going, I would like to make a qualification about something about SuperWorld. Is SuperWorld, counterintuitively, it might sound ironic, but we're building a virtual world that's focused on your real life. What we want to do at SuperWorld is enhance your real life and the real world. I don't want to suck you into a virtual world. You asked, I have 2 kids, and there was a movie called Social Dilemma that came out on Netflix. Have you seen that movie?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay. I highly recommend you watch it. It came out a couple of years ago. It's on Netflix. It's a very powerful movie about how we're all living in these algorithmic bubbles, right? Like, meaning, like people are conflicting with each other because they read and hear what they think they're supposed to read and hear what they like. And so that's one thing. The other thing is we're all staring at our phones. We all went to lunch. We'd probably all look at our phones 1,000 times over lunch, right? And how kids are obsessed with making Instagram posts and TikTok posts, right? And the idea here is, I have 2 kids, and the last thing I want to do is build a virtual world that sucks them into it. That's not what I want to do, right? That's not what we want to do. What SuperWorld's about is how do we build a virtual world that takes all these technologies and actually impacts us in our real life? So I want to keep us in the real world, doing things that we love in the real world. I'm a humanist. And so back to your question about the metaverse, I think a lot of people are slowly being pulled in, right? But that's not what we want to do at SuperWorld. SuperWorld is quite the opposite. How do I take these technologies and enhance your real life, the things you love to do? There's a concept called play to earn that you might have heard of. And that's how people are playing video games and they're earning crypto for doing that. People in certain countries, are earning their livelihoods doing this, right? In the Philippines, it's very popular. What we're doing at SuperWorld is live to earn. How do I get Nike to pay you crypto for going on a run in the real world? How do I get you paid because you're, buying property and you want to go to some open houses and you just want to browse, or go to a museum and look at art, or, do something positive for your community? Can we use tokenomics to actually incentivize real world behavior? And so again, I think back to trends in your question, I think the metaverse is slowly pulling us in these worlds. And I would question people to say, hey, you know what? Come into SuperWorld and let us bring these technologies to your real life.
I love that. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Hrish, let's dive in, all right? Because I love that you gave the philosophy and what you guys stand for, but people are still listening like, what the hell is SuperWorld? I'm ready to dive in or bring it into my personal experience. What is SuperWorld in your definition? And explain to people that are novice, never heard of it before, what SuperWorld is.
So I use three analogies that really explain what SuperWorld is. So I'll go through those analogies very quickly. So the first analogy is Pokemon Go. That's an analogy for adding digital information to the real world. Everyone knows that game, running around looking for Pokemons in the real world. What if that could be anything, right? So you have a world, I have a world, brands have worlds. If I come to New York or LA or Tokyo or Beijing or Madrid, anywhere in the world, you could say, Hrish, why don't you check out my world? And I could walk around and you've left me things. You've left a hologram of yourself somewhere, totally interactive. I can, talk to you. You've left photos and videos in different places. You've left messages at your favorite restaurants about what I should eat and drink. You've left NFTs, digital assets that you've created all over the world for me to discover and buy. So the first analogy is Pokemon Go. It's an analogy for adding digital information to the real world. And we have an infinite number of filters on the world. You have a world, I have a world, brands have worlds. The second analogy is Foursquare. That's an analogy for data. So on the data side, you earn crypto when you use SuperWorld. Okay, again, this is live to earn. This is permissioned use of data. What we want to do is, again, pay you for your data monetization, but also help you control what you see in your environment. You know what I mean? I want you as a user to control that. And then number two is, how do we take all this user activity and actually create positivity for the world? So we have a why at SuperWorld. The why is, let's build a better world. Let's improve and take all this user activity. So when you buy a plot of land in SuperWorld, we'll plant a tree in the real world. We're partnered with the World Bank in the Caribbean, working with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Association for hurricane, disaster relief, and the earthquake that happened in Haiti. We partnered with the UN and UNESCO. Barbados is building an embassy in SuperWorld. We actually brought together 2 tribes in the Amazon jungle about a month ago who were at war for 500 years to create digital art in the Amazon that anyone can view from anywhere, that enables them to show off what are the issues that are happening in the Amazon jungle. And you can see that from anywhere in the world, right? So our mission is, how do we leverage these technologies to actually do positive things so you can feel good about all the things that you're doing in SuperWorld collectively? And then the third analogy is monopoly. We've taken the surface of the earth and we've divided it into 64 billion virtual blocks of land. Each block is a unique digital asset. When you buy a block, you're buying a 100 meter by 100 meter block of virtual land covering earth. So you can find your favorite places on earth anywhere and you can buy them. And then if you buy them, you get a share of all the economics, advertising, e-commerce, digital commerce, data, analytics, and gaming that happen there.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's a great analogy too, and I love that you guys are doing a lot of good for the world.
Now, a quick question. We see real estate is quite pricey at the moment in a lot of different communities. So
Yeah.
give advice for people who want to invest and get their feet wet, but it's a bit expensive. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think the pricing is going to go down? It'll go higher? What are your feedback on that?
And virtual land, is that what you're
Yeah.
talking about? Yeah.
Mhm.
So first of all, in SuperWorld, again, anything unpurchased is 0.1 ether, which is about $300 or $400. So, and it's for a city block of land, right? So you can, again, at a pretty accessible price point, buy a
Okay.
city block of SuperWorld. Again, and you have to pay some gas fee, which is an Ethereum fee that goes to the Ethereum miners, and that's how you execute a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. But the point is that, again, anything that's unpurchased, you can get in for 0.1 ether. And there's 64 billion properties in the world. So, depending on what city or what part of the world you like, there's a lot of options. And people have different themes. Some people buy stadiums, some people buy downtown, some people buy vacation spots, beaches, all kinds of places. And again, these are all structured as NFTs. And so there's a variety of different, kind of valuation parameters that someone could put on properties. There's some places that maybe you're like, that's your favorite sports team. You definitely want that stadium. Someone else doesn't play sports, so they don't even recognize that as a place. If you grew up in Indonesia, you might have 10 places that you love that I don't even know about, right? And so that's the beauty of it, is that there's really opportunities anywhere in the world. And most people think very local, like places that they grow up, places they go on vacation, places where they spend time. And then others are, I want to buy Times Square in New York City. So everyone has their own special plot. And it's very accessible. And then once you buy the plot, you can reprice it to whatever you think it should be worth, right? So you're like, hey, I just bought this, you know what? I think it should be worth X amount, right? And you then decide what that is. And then others can give you an offer and bid. And so we're basically creating a very robust property marketplace, allowing people to buy, reprice, sell, and put bids. And then we're providing, we're partnered with Stephen Wolfram, who's one of the top AI computer scientists in the world. He's adding a lot of, virtual land pricing data that, takes into account physical land pricing dynamics as well. So if you bought a property, a virtual land on a piece of farmland, and next thing you know, they're going to build a mall there, there's a good chance that in the physical world, that property is going to go up in value. And guess what? You're going to get data that this property is probably going to be valuable in the virtual world because of that. And you can make buying and selling decisions based on that data.
Yeah, no, great information. I have a question about that too. Like, what are your thoughts on, do you think that the virtual land valuation is going to outpace, physical land? And what does it also mean for real estate agents and brokers? Should they be afraid? Are they necessary at this point, once we get to a point where people actually, adopted virtual land and they understand how it works? Do we necessarily?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Virtual land is infinitely monetizable. And so when people understand what that means, that in any location in SuperWorld, you could have an infinite number of filters, and people can monetize those locations if they're there physically, or can again do that from anywhere in the world. You can add content from anywhere in the world and access it from anywhere in the world, right? So, and you can monetize it from anywhere in the world. And so if you think about that, you're really creating a way that any location geographically is infinitely monetizable. And so if you think of a property in the physical world that takes space to build things, you got to build stuff there, a store, and then you got to create things there. That all costs resources. And if you're talking about building virtually, it's infinitely scalable. You're able to build 1,000 of those things anywhere in the world at the same time, and so the opportunities building virtual on top of the real world are pretty compelling as you kind of factor in those things. So do I think virtual property will be worth more than physical property? It is already, right? It's already happened in many locations in SuperWorld and in the world. So, again, that will continue. And it's just the early stages of it.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We could keep him here forever, but
Yeah.
you know you have to go.
I
Any more
know.
questions?
This was a great interview. Very informative. Thank you so much for sharing with us what makes SuperWorld so unique and special, and what makes you so unique and special. Your journey seems like it's wonderful. You are so diverse in your background and your passion. I see you bring that, and you emerge the metaverse with the real world, and I love that so much. So thank you so much, Hrish, for being here with us today.
Hey, thanks so much. I really appreciate the kind words. And, again, I think we all build this together. And so I want you to know, I want your audience to know that, SuperWorld is the gateway to the metaverse, because we really want to enable anyone who wants to get into the metaverse, who wants to learn about these technologies. Don't be afraid, call us, you can write us, we're live chat. You can email me directly. I'm at CEO@superworldapp.com. If you want to talk to me directly, if you want to talk to our team, we're at outreach@superworldapp.com. The point is that we want to make this as accessible to people as possible. And again, the goal is, how can we enhance people's real lives? How can we build a product that actually allows you to pursue your passions? We call it passionware. How do you build a virtual world that empowers you to, improve your community, improve the world around you, and have voting power, vote on things, right? And so I guess the point is that we all do it together. So I want to thank you for your support, helping us share the story. I always tell people we have a hashtag Team SuperWorld,
Okay.
Earth emoji, heart emoji. So use that hashtag. You're on social media, share that. I'd appreciate it. But the point is let's all come together as a movement to use these technologies to improve people's lives and improve the real world.
Wonderful. Hrish, thank you so much for joining us. And I can't wait to have you back as SuperWorld continues to grow.
Thank you.
For more about it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been an honor. Thank you.
All right. Take care. We'll see you guys next episode. Bye-bye.